Chapter 25 Thrown Overboard into the Ocean. When life seems to be going against us, we mustn't give up at all costs. As long as there is a will within our spirit, then hope is not lost. At the end of it all, you will not be remembered for only your thoughts, but for the things you got done against all odds. I could not stop reflecting upon the dice. The king's total was 18, but in numerology the summation was 9. Yet I was shackled in chains aboard the king's boat, heading to the middle of the ocean, and even when it appeared I had nothing left, I still had faith and trust in the divine. If losing the dice game was my karma and fate, then I must surrender to the wisdom of no escape. And if by some miracle God witnessed the result and found that the total was an odd 9, then I had reason to believe in the miraculous ways of this world, that destiny would arrive in the perfect time. The Golden Maiden managed to get aboard the boat, along with many others, and there with the shackles, they secured the rusty iron chains to a giant stone-like boulder. It was clear I would sink, and my mind did not know what to think. At least I would feel the relief of the great sacred ocean, but yet again, it appeared I would be pushed to the brink. And so I heard the Golden Maiden whisper,
"You cannot give up. You mustn't quit.
What hope do we have left?"
If everything was given to us, it wouldn't feel as good as when we achieve it,"
she whispered. Then a moment later, in the middle of the ocean, they brought me to the edge of the plank and pushed the boulder off the side when I started sinking. I fell over when a vortex of water and energy rushed past. Now my life had been submerged, and so I began to sink inward to the very center of our earth. There was an odd stillness, and once the fear left, I figured I had maybe 3 moments left without breath. White buffalo, white buffalo, white buffalo, in your great work I trust. Just as I was ready to be extinguished, I felt the sacred relief of the ocean's ways, and as I held my eyes open for the last time, I saw a miracle swimming within the waves. As I was carried into the depths, God had sent me a miraculous mermaid. Her lips pressed against mine, and her breath was like the elixir of life. Fresh life entered my body, and so hope was not gone just yet. As I sank deeper and deeper, the truth came clear. This mermaid was like an angel, just when I needed it most, and how many times had I been astonished that when we follow our soul's calling, all the right things and occurrences will happen to appear. This mermaid was a seer, with a colorful ink marking stretched up along her side. She was the lone woman who stayed with me when my life would have otherwise been bound to die. Forever when I think of her, I express gratitude to the Most High, and even in the wetness of the ocean's water, still the tears of my eyes poured out to cry. She was a savior beyond the norm, a woman of the water who carried energy that could heal and transform. Surely this great sage was a mother of the ocean. She was the queen of all storms. "What's your name?" I wondered.
"Colbee."
"Am I dead?"
"You can think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly,"
she said. With that we touched the bottom, and although one might suspect eternal darkness, it was the mermaid that illuminated the underworld, and so not a single predator came near us. Breath by breath, the mermaid gave me energy and kept me alive. How else could I explain it when the poison was pinned within the body, all the while the chains and shackles constricted me from the outside? Then, like a dream I had never known, the mermaid began to emit a frequency out. A legion of sea creatures were called from all the far coasts. The eyes of the mystical sea animals gazed upon us, and like a cathedral of exquisite life, they formed a temple around our bodies. Just when I feared we would be overtaken by the darkness, I discovered this inner world's great luminosity. The sea creatures began to swim in circles, and so this cathedral of oceanic life began to swirl around me. The power of a hurricane force began to form as it surrounded us with great energy within the all-powerful sea. All the marine creatures appeared like a giant stained glass window around the center of a brilliant soul. This great formless temple had been created out of emptiness. There the great white light of the mermaid had risen to the pinnacle. She was like that firebird, impossible to describe. She was the force that brings life out of the darkness upon the moment we are called to die. This was the goddess who elevates the soul to new heights when the spiritual center appears to have hit rock bottom.
This is not your death. This is the Great Awakening,
she said. Round and round, the sea creature swam faster and faster, and now a vortex began to pick up speed. For something truly remarkable had happened, and now with the raw force of this current, the chains began to buckle as if I might get freed. All the sea creatures circled me like a shrine, and I prayed in thanks that this goddess called forth her light beacon. From shrimp to sharks, from whales to dolphins, the cyclone of energy grew so powerful before the chains and shackles upon my body burst open. My life force shot off with the current, and now this force of the storm had a life of its own. I had no time to bid the mermaid goodbye, and so the ocean's current carried me off as I was again all alone. Housed in the darkness, I had no choice where I would go. I was simply a pebble in the giant vast ocean as I was spun off into the dark unknown. How many times had I relied upon my spirit guides? Yet before I could even utter the idea, a bubble of air opened when I had no clue where I'd landed. I gasped and opened my eyes in astonishment. Here I was, saved, but this appeared to be an extremely dark and secluded inner cavern. As my hands felt around the walls, all I felt was a certain moss or mysterious plant's growth. With air in this underwater cavern, there was a source of hidden energy that my human senses had never found. This cave was expansive, but there was no sign anyone had ever been here, and so I rose to my feet, touching the inner walls as I began to explore. This cave system seemed endless, and I did not know where it would lead to, and so I found more and more openings as countless expansions grew. Then I decided to use my voice and call out, "Is there anyone else here?"
Is it you?
said a woman's voice. That made me tremble, for I was aware that I was not alone. I could not see a thing, but now I heard a slithering sensation as if my body had been frozen into stone. My rigid muscles contracted tight, but I pulled myself forward with my own human might. I tried to evade the sound of this creature, but this cave appeared to be her home, and I was trapped under the ocean on the cavern's inside. The further I tried to get away, the closer she came near, and so my eyes were overtaken by a red veil when I felt the onset of a terrible fear. Not only was the poison eating away at my heart and mind, but I felt a new curse set upon my soul too. And so I touched the horns on my head, which grew and grew. I could no longer think of myself as a man, but I had been overcome by a creature's rage.
Do not think of yourself as a demon,
whispered this woman's voice.
Only the womb of darkness can give birth to the great sage. You must be willing to sacrifice everything while doing whatever it takes. That is why it's named Hermes Thrice Great.